Right, folks, good evening. Welcome back to the HOG Pod. Slightly different variation on the introduction tonight, and I've got the great pleasure of inviting Kenny onto his own HOG Pod.
This is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to have a wee night to myself. Ben, you knock yourself out.
And the other person that you'll see on the screen as well is Mr. Jim Hamilton. Super excited to have you, Jim. Jim's a podcaster, rugby star, into Harley Davidson's. Your show, The Big Jim Show.
Yes, sir. Early plug, thank you.
Get it in there early as quick as I can. So thank you very much for coming on and chatting to us tonight. I have stalked this man around Thunder in the Glens for 2 years. Had to talk to a few mutual friends to try and get a route in to try and have a chat with him. And then we bumped into each other again at the Cairngorms. So there's a saying in Scotland that's what's meant for you won't go by you. So I'm truly believing you were meant to meet me at 1 o'clock in the morning in the Cairngorm car park.
Is that what time it was?
It was, and you just met my friend in the toilet, and he came out a little bit nervous because apparently he called you the height of nonsense and was panicked you might respond to it not as well as you did.
Yeah, no, all good. It's great to be on. Great to be on, lads. Finally, we've managed to connect and collaborate, which I'm pumped about. But I love the name. I don't know if we've started rolling yet, but I just wanted to get that out of the way. Really cool name. I don't know whether you've copyrighted it or patented it or whatever. Maybe it's not revolutionary, but I was like, HOG Pod, it works. There's a brand there.
Appreciate that. I'll tell you exactly how it came about. This is true, Bill. We were with HOG, me and a mate of mine, a boy from here. We were driving to the refugee camp in Ukraine in 2022, whenever the war kicked off. And we were going and we were delivering aid. And then while I was there, I actually rescued a cat from Mariupol because of a little refugee girl that was living over here that I bumped into. She was crying her eyes out every day. And she's, I want my cat. And her mum was translating for me. And I said, I'll go and get your cat. And her mum was looking at me as if, the place is imploding. But I did. I went and got the cat, but we were delivering aid. But all the way there and all the way back, we were trying to find Harley Davidson content in the UK. Because we always have American stuff and, the big American dream and blah, blah, blah. And I said to my mate, we should start a podcast about Harleys in the UK. We'll call it HOG Pod. And there was just a silence in the cab.
We're all professional. We've all got microphones. Loving it.
Yes, beautiful, isn't it?
Boom arms.
Yeah, but I've been listening to bits of the show. I went on YouTube to have a look, and when you spoke about it, I was looking at some of the stuff. It's good. It's I've always felt there was a market, and it's underserviced in the motorbike community anyway, and the travel. And you look at how well the YouTube clips do, and I know some of your stuff where you've put up, it might have been Thunder in the Glen a couple of years ago, one of the events did 10,000 views.
Yeah,
I've just watched a thing on YouTube actually called Yin and Yang, just randomly, like these two guys that go riding on old Harleys across America. It's done 200,000 views.
Yeah,
and they're not even speaking. They're not even speaking.
Yeah,
so
I have a little boy who has. I don't know if you've these Labubu teddies that they're all going bonkers about. He did a 10-second clip of a Labubu on the carpet and he pulled it out of shot and he got 25,000 views in half an hour. And I'm looking at him going, you little bastard, I am working my bloody socks off.
Yeah. Well, I'm the same as well. I'm trying to build my own podcast on the side as well. I say on the side, that's really devaluing what I'm doing, but it's a slow burner, right? This kind of long form conversation, unless you say something ridiculous, or you've got one of these funky dolls, or there's something culturally relevant, it's hard for it to really hook. But one day it will. You keep going, you keep hustling. It's if it's good, it will grow organically, and that's the right way, I believe, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You can pay for all sorts of cheats, but you know what? They always come back and bite you.
I was chatting to the CEO, and I know he's divided opinion, basically one way. There's one opinion, right? But I know him through mutual friends. I say mutual friends. He's a philanthropist, right? So he's South African. I've got mates in South Africa. So we were loosely connected. And I was talking to him about wanting to move a little bit away from rugby, and I was interested in bikes and travel and culture. And I look at the disconnection in the UK Harley brand to what it is in the US, right? And I know you've mentioned, you had someone on your show, they were talking about the US, and usually people that are interested in Harleys and stuff like that are big on the US, right? Big open roads, decent weather, the dream to go and ride there, which I'm into as well. And I look at the disconnection that Harley UK or Europe, or Harley UK, Europe, Ireland, however you want to look at it, have compared to the US. Forget like the top level of issues that they've been through with the rebrand, but the collaborations with Momoa, with his On the Roam and Post Malone, they've really managed, it's actually very similar to the world that I'm in rugby, they've really managed to capture that cultural relevancy within some parts of what they're trying to do as a brand, whereas in the UK, I just haven't, I'm like, there's a void to be able to capture that, Ben. And we were obviously up in the Highlands and stuff like that, and how beautiful Scotland is and how beautiful Ireland is. Kenny, I know you're in Northern Ireland, and to do what they've done in America with some of the content creators and do that here effectively. And I just think there's an opportunity. Anyway, I was chatting to the CEO about it, and the old CEO, the guy that's going out the door, and nothing came of it. But I'm chatting to the new guy, Artie or whatever his name is, about doing some bits as well.
Artie Star.
You best be good if you got a name like that.
It's legend status already, isn't it? That
his name's Arthur though, so it's not actually Artie. His name's Arthur.
Oh, don't spoil it, Jim. Fuck's sake. I like that. I like Artie. We'll keep it as Artie, Ben.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think when we spoke about him, I was referring to him as Artie because that's what's on his blurb. So I went with that.
Yeah. What are your views, lads, on the Harley brand there? I know I've kind of just given quickly a superficial view because we're on the HOG Pod, the Harley Pod, and this is your podcast to ask questions, but I'll ask one.
Yeah.
What's the general consensus within the chapters and with diehard Harley riders and fans and people like you lads who've been involved for years on the overall brand? Maybe give me both views. Give me the overall view and then the UK and Ireland version.
So I think my opinion, you probably hit the nail on the head. There's a definite disconnect. So we quite often feel like we're the sort of second cousin. We've got a market. It's not very big. I think in terms of focus that where we feel that Harley's focus isn't always on the UK because we're not going to be the biggest market, and I don't think we ever will. They do a lot for us at the same time. So we have a lot of things going on in terms of like the chapters. But again, that's very much dependent on your dealer, how your relationship is with your dealer, if that's good, if you have a dealer at the minute. So we went from, 32 dealerships to about 15 in the space of 18 months. Closing down for different reasons. Some of the dealerships handed their franchises back because they weren't happy with the sort of demands putting on them. And then unfortunately other franchises just, they ran out of money. So that's the reason that they disappeared. So it's very, how did somebody describe it the other day? Parochial. So it doesn't quite have the same joined up feeling. And I think the thing that unites us in the UK more than anything is HOG. So actually the Harley Owners Group side of things, and that's all your different chapters, your regional team. I don't know if you have a different opinion on that, Kenny, but I think for us, it's HOG that gels us and brings us into the family more than the motor company itself.
I would say that you will, any brand of motorcycle, I don't know if you rode how long have you been riding, Jim?
12, 13 years, but I've had an interest on it long before that. But I was a professional rugby player, so you weren't allowed until I went to France.
Of course, I'm going to ask you about that later on if you don't mind. But presumably you've ridden other brands other than Harley.
Loosely. Yeah,
loosely. Okay.
Yeah.
You will never find a more fanatical bunch of people than Harley owners. They are the most loyal of customers. You then go a level down again where you got members of HOG, and they are the loyalist of the loyal. Ben's already said it there. I think that the motor company, I don't think it has no interest in the UK. It's a volume-based model because, and this is just my interpretation, the margins in motorcycles are nowhere near what people think. They look at the price tag of a Harley Davidson and they go, that company's making, X, Y, and Z. It's a volume-based model. They have to turn these bikes around. So, when you look at the European market and the US market and then the UK market, I think we get proportionately the interest, is what I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I look at Harley the same way I look at a couple of other brands, and I don't mean that they're a like-for-like brand. Red Bull being one, right? So Red Bull, the brand, is actually bigger than the shocking can of sugar that you have. Or Benji, I saw you had a can of Monster as well. But Monster, the brand, is bigger than the drink itself because of the collaborations that they do and the fact that they've managed to branch into this cultural relevancy with the collaborations that they've done. I think when I look at Harley in the UK especially, and I think it is changing now, but they had an agency, they had a big agency running the brand, and I imagine people within that agency, in fact I kind of know, most of them don't even ride Harleys. So the true essence of what the brand is, which is the bike, and that is the heartbeat, and that is the legacy, and that is the tradition, and that is the brand, yet they can't relate to something that's so iconic. And I had a similar thing in my rugby career when I worked at World Rugby, and I took over this platform that I started, Rugby Pass, and took it into World Rugby, which is the governing body of our game of rugby union. And they had an agency running it. And I was like, but I understand it because you need bodies to help kind of generate and activate on different things. But to the people there you go. Where's the soul? In that. And I think that Harley as a brand in the UK, especially because I'm here, I know that you're UK because you're Northern Ireland, but in Ireland as well, have a real opportunity to try and find where their cultural touch point and how you engage, because ultimately people aren't riding bikes now, are they? And there's a number of reasons in the UK now, because the weather's shit, that's for one. They're unsafe. We're seeing participation numbers drop in rugby because it's unsafe. And I imagine it's the same thing, like people riding bikes, they don't want to do that because it's unsafe, you know? And that's the crux of it. But how do you then, with the brand, you actually engage people there, and then you'll bring on people potentially who want to ride, or when they get a bit older, they actually want to go down that route.
Outside of HOG, which is very much what we're involved in, and me and Ben have said this 1,000 times, there is a whole wide world of Harley Davidson outside of even HOG. We have this little, I think, how did you describe it a couple of shows ago, Ben? There's like a wee snow globe. Snow globe, yeah, mega. And it is, we're in this little snow globe of what we do. But there's a massive world for Harley Davidson outside of it. And, again, the motor company, or rather the UK arm of the motor company, have an event every year called ROC. It's Regional Officers Connect, that gets everyone together. But again, it's very HOG centric, but they put in so much work. The team, like Vicky, I don't know did you meet Vicky Green?
Yeah, I met Vicky.
That woman is an absolute firecracker. I honestly don't think she sleeps. She has the same amount of energy on day 5 as she does on day 1. She's just this absolute ball of gamma. And, they are on the road all the time with their experience tour, taking all the different bikes to different areas to get bums on seats, because you'll know yourself, Jim, you've only got to sit on a Harley for a little while, and there's a load of naysayers about Harley. Oh, they don't brake, they don't accelerate, they don't turn corners, and they will be right on most points. But when you ride one, you go, that's what it's all about. I get it. That's what it's all about, And there's the Suzuki Intruder, which looks the same, but it doesn't. It's nowhere near the same.
Oh, that's what my mate rode up. So my mate Roddy Grant rode. I'd never even heard of one. I mean, it sounded incredible, but it's not the same.
They're not. No, cracking bike, but they're just not what we ride. Is it the Breakout you ride?
Yeah, I mean, that's the one that I had in France. Look, again, my knowledge on bikes is there, but it's not kind of deep enough to know what I can ride. But I ride a Harley Breakout because they're perceived as the longest one. But
absolutely,
that wouldn't be my choice. If we're getting into it, I'm actually looking for an old bike. I'm in the market. I'm close to buying. I'm whispering because the wife's next door. There's one that's they call it like a hardtail that's been remodeled like a bobber, but I'm trying to think, will I fit on it? So can they lift the seat up? It needs a few modifications in order for me to be able to ride it. So I'm looking for something older. I think it's a 0.8 cc, so it's not even
the 800,
right? Okay.
Yeah, that's
880.
Yeah. So you can get what's called is it a rake extension, they call them, Ben, when they extend the rake of the bike front to back. There's certain things you can do. You can pull the seat back. You can put your pegs to forward. Move all your operating systems forward. It can be done. Anything can be done to a Harley. But the one you ride at the moment, and we were talking about this on the other show. We're talking about you before we'd even met you about the bike and the choice of bike. And we thought, given because you're a unit of a guy, probably the best choice you could have made, because, you know, you get the ultras and the CVOs and the live wire, as Ben likes to say that I ride, because he's a shit. The live wire. Have you had a go of a live wire?
I got asked to go on the live wire when they were called the Harley Davidson live wire, and I thought, well, this isn't going to last long, and it didn't, did it? They dropped the Harley Davidson, but they're tiny bikes, aren't they? Tiny. I wouldn't fit on it, so the answer's no, and I couldn't. I'd be way too big to ride that.
You know, but even if you were to ride some of the soft tails, the Heritage, the Road King, etc., the position for someone like you would be difficult. Whereas the Breakout, the Sportster S, actually, Ben, the Sportster S would be interesting for him, because that's clamshell as well.
Yeah, but it's tiny.
The bike's
really
tiny.
Yeah, this is what I mean. And, you know, with the tiny bikes, so with these older bikes, you're meant to look a little bit high handlebars with the 8 bars, high knees. So I don't know. I'm guessing and I'm hoping that I could potentially get away with looking ridiculously big and a little bit silly on a bike, because the bike in itself has got so much soul, and it's a classic, right? And that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm looking at. But the Breakout's been great, and big shout out to West Coast Harley. They sorted me out for the Thunder and the Glen ride, and it's a real shame, because I was connected to the guys in Edinburgh and the franchise there, and they're one of the franchises that has gone now, which is a real shame.
Yeah, that's Ben's old stomping ground, Edinburgh Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
Certainly was. So what did you ride the first time round, Jim?
That was it. It was a Breakout.
So it's been the Breakout twice, right?
Yeah, well, Breakout, 3 times. So I had that in France. That was the bike that I had in France that I bought from Harley there. So I bought that when I went there, and I dropped it as I rode around the corner, because I hadn't ridden in ages, and I hadn't ridden a Harley that big either.
See, in terms of that, it's not a forgiving bike. That's the thing with the Breakout. So seeing you on it, that was the couple of things that stood out to me. You're very tall for a Breakout, but then also that clamshell position that we spoke about, with your hands out front, your legs out front. But they are not a forgiving bike.
I'm glad you say that.
The new version's better. The new version is significantly better, but they were known, like, they are quite a difficult bike to ride. It's not your first shot on a Harley. You don't go for a Breakout. And I think the other thing you'll struggle with, which is difficult, like Kenny said, there's so many modifications you can do. So if you're looking at like aftermarket seats, so like I ride a Saddleman seat. Within that, you've got ranges like the Daddy long legs. And then, so that puts you 2 inches further back than I would be sat in a standard seat. They go the other way as well for shorter people. You've got your forward controls that you can put on, but Harley actually do ones that are further beyond that point with risers and different handlebars. But the difficulty you've got, I suppose, you won't know any of that, and you can't try any of that, because you're not going to buy all those parts in and trial them on a bike. It really does become quite sort of trial and error. And I found the picture. So there's 2 pictures. I sent my wife the picture of you stood next to me, which I'm sure Kenny will take great delight in putting in the episode. And you're like head and shoulders above me, and she thought you were on a curb. And then the other picture that I saw, you were sat on my bike, if you remember, at the start of the ride out. And I was saying to Kenny, I was like, mate, he had over a 90-degree bend in his knees on my footboards. Yeah. You weren't. Your feet were on the floor. Like, you had another, like, that much gap to go before you got to the floor.
Yeah.
So that would be tricky for you. But
going the route that you're looking at, the older bike, and doing a bit to it, you can pinch 2 inches here, and you can pinch 1.5 inches there, and another inch and a bit here. And before you know it, you've gained maybe 6 inches or 9 inches. So, Jim, can I ask you straight away? Because obviously you got the Big Jim show, and I have listened to 2 of your episodes today, actually. The Steve Collins one, because I'm a massive boxing fan, and then Jay Dobson as well.
Yeah, Jaybird
podcast. Jaybird, yeah. What a guy. Podcasting, how are you finding it, and how did you get into it?
Yeah, great question. We're on a podcast, and it's now a thing apparently. And I started a rugby podcast called the Rugby Pod 9 years ago, before podcasting was truly a thing. So I was commuting in my last year playing rugby for Saracens, which is a North London rugby club, and I was living in the Cotswolds with a lot of old people, and it was a 2-hour drive. And in the morning, naturally you can go to radio, you can go to music, but I was listening to crime podcasts. There was a podcast called Serial, and also Joe Rogan's podcast was just there or thereabouts and was growing. So just naturally, as I was driving, I thought there's a real opportunity to do this in rugby. There's great characters in the game, warriors of athletes that play the sport, from all walks of life, just really interesting people. And I was a bit of a storyteller. So we had an opportunity for me and my former teammate, his mum was my teacher at school, a guy called Andy Good, who had a cult following, played for England, had a long hair at the back but bowled on top, wore gloves, and was an England club legend, highest point scoring fly half. But he had a cult following, smoked, drank, had a big belly on him. So he was iconic, right? So we started a podcast 9 or 10 years ago, which just blew up. And we did it for all the right reasons, because we wanted to. We didn't do it for money. We didn't do it for fame and fortune. Not that we have all of them things now, but we're on the cusp of that. And because I love podcasting and conversation and a bit of personal development myself and human optimization, I went off 3 years ago and started my own show, The Big Jim Show. And even though it's called that, it's actually not about me. It's about the guest, and it's about getting really interesting people. And I've had musicians, I've had boxers, UFC fighters, people from the NFL, and I'm loving doing it. So there's a kind of quick roundabout how it all came about.
I need to put my hand up at this point then and actually confess a little bit further, because the first time we met was actually you and Andy did the after dinner speech, and I think you might have done an episode from the Harris dinner up in Dundee. So that was our first interaction.
Of course, yeah. So that's been the add-on. Like we go off now and we do live shows, and we also do a bit of after dinner speaking and stuff like that. We're actually going to the US. So the podcast that I do with Goody has grown so big that we're going to New York and Chicago to do shows, and they're selling out, which is amazing, right? I'm into stand-up comedy. I'm into that kind of stuff as well. So actually, the podcasting, and we've not even spoke about rugby, has been absolutely life-changing for me, because it's something that I'm deeply passionate about, that I've managed to turn a passion and a hobby and an interest actually into, well, it's my only job now. So how cool was that?
Shane, I love that. I love to hear that. That is just absolutely brilliant. See, Ben, there's lights ahead for me and you. We just need to keep going.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not easy though. It's not easy though. Like doing a podcast, and you'll know you're doing a podcast yourself, and the rugby pod's easy, and a lot of these podcasts that are successful are a lot easier than what I'm doing. I'll tell you the reason why, because on the rugby one, we have a hook. So you lads will always have a hook. I say that. It depends how much you'll delve into, if there's an event every week. But we can talk about rugby and we can talk about what's happened. Mm-hmm. So there's always something to talk about. On my own show, that isn't always the case. It's hustling to get guests, and as you guys go as well, and you're trying to get guests, and it's always an ask, and you're hoping that if you're doing the remote that the Wi-Fi works, or you hope the guest turns up when you're in studio. Yeah. So it's not easy. People look at podcasts and be like, I'll just start a podcast. It's a really, really hard industry. It's like music. It's musicians will tell you. It's a similar thing. It's creative. It's media. It's only the best survive, effectively.
So when Kenny started to ask me to do this, so I jumped in on a couple of things, and I found it really difficult. I come from a performing background. So I'm now a nurse. I run a family-run business of care homes. Prior to that, I did a degree in opera. So I'm used to standing on stage. I'm used to performing. I grew up playing music. But it's terrifying. And see, what I found the hardest thing actually about podcasting, as much as we're having this interaction, we're all remote, and learning to look at I was desperately looking at the wrong person on the screen like this. And the first few recordings, Kenny's like, mate, just start looking at the camera, please. I'm like, yeah, where is it? Where is it? And I think that was one of the things. So when I started thinking about talking to yourself, obviously you had huge success in rugby, but you don't really talk, do you? So if you think about it, unless you're the man of the match, you go out, you do your thing, and you go back. And you will meet fans and things along the way. But this must have been quite a turnaround for you, or a different direction in what you were thinking about doing.
100%. So a backdoor into media, effectively. If you watch me play, Kenny, basically I made myself famous in rugby by going around punching people and fighting, effectively. So it wasn't through the talent and speed. I know you're nodding. Your audience might enjoy that, taken back into the old school. So the media career usually went to the well-spoken, articulate, the smart gentleman. And I wasn't any of them. But this podcast gave me a backdoor route into that. And I've done ITV now. I've commentated. I've done TNT. And the art of speaking and conversation and standing up and doing these things, they don't come natural to anyone, right? It's not a natural thing. It's like anything, you have to work on it. But I think the authentic thing that I've enjoyed is I love telling stories. I'm a storyteller. When I was with the group, I was a storyteller. But as a player, especially playing for Scotland, you were never allowed to go up there and be your authentic self. It was a list of key messages that you could say, And when I started this podcast, I was playing at Saracens and telling stories about Scotland. I was getting emails from the union, oh, you can't say this, you can't do that. This is a disgrace. And that was back then because rugby was so far behind the times when it came to content and podcasting and these things. And I was ahead of the curve, not because I thought there was a curve, just because I wanted to do it. So I found a backdoor way into media. But I agree, like the best thing to do is to do it in person. But some of the biggest podcasts in the world, like Smartless, the one in the US with Jason Bateman, and he's got a couple of actor mates, and the New Heights podcast with the Kelsey boys, the NFL lads, they do it remote as well. So if the content's good enough, you can do it remote. And you can, as I say, if you've got something to speak about, which you lads clearly have every week, then it'll be successful as well. But yeah, backdoor into media.
We're just making you listen to our conversations, if it's totally honest. See, even if we don't have a camera, this is me and Kenny on the phone. And then we worked out that actually we could probably make it work and people might listen. And they so far are.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's roll it back a little bit. We have to talk about the rugby. We've got a guy like you with us here. Let's talk about the rugby. I need to get something out of the way, though, because I've been practicing and I can't say it. You were the guy after the 999th person to play for Scotland, weren't you?
Correct, yeah, to the annoyance of many Scots.
Yeah, so your connection is, you have to forgive me because I'm actually a fan of the proper rugby, the other rugby, the rugby league. So I haven't... Yeah, so thanks for coming.
I was hoping you could settle this for us, Jim.
I'll tell you now,
we have this debate regularly.
You want tough fuckers, you look at rugby league, I'm telling you now. Sorry to burst any bubble out there. These rugby league lads are proper. I'm mates with a few of them. I've actually got Jamie Peacock on the show next week, who is a Man of Steel warrior. So there's a lot of crossovers with league and union at the minute through the MND community, which is a sad thing, which we probably won't speak about. But there's a lot of collaboration. But I've got huge admiration.
Well, I'm a Rhinos man. I'm a Leeds Rhinos man through and through. So I know what you're referencing there. Yeah, absolutely.
I take the mick out of it, but I totally appreciate actually watching them. I'm a union man. I've grown up. I was born in the West Midlands, but raised in Yorkshire. Dabbled in rugby at school and college, and I wind Kenny up regularly. But I do it well in the knowledge that those league boys are impressive.
Oh, they are.
You see the speed they're moving at, the hits they're taking. Union, you can get an opportunity for a rest occasionally if you're in the right position. There's a bit of a breather, whereas the league boys just seem to be up and down the pitch.
It's a much simpler game to follow, I think. So therefore, the simplistic element, when I'm not saying that they're not smart, some of them might be really smart, but a lot of them are brickies and scaffolders, right? Just get the ball, run hard, or fucking take him out. Yeah. The simple rules of engagement, whereas union, there's a lot to think about, unfortunately.
Exactly, yeah. I'll tell you what I will say, though. See, when it comes to the international rugby, definitely prefer the union. I have sat and watched the Rugby League World Cup, and God, it's like watching paint dry. It's as dull as dishwater. Six Nations, greatest event on the planet. Rugby League... Rugby World Cup, 100%. Would I go and see? So over here, the team would be Ulster. Obviously, over here, wouldn't go and watch club level union. I would much prefer. I'd sit and watch the rugby league at club level all day long.
Well, that's the thing where the rugby, as the whole, it goes back to what we were chatting about before, whether or not it goes out about the participation numbers and being an unsafe sport and all of these things. So there's that element to rugby, but there's the club game and the international game. The international game is thriving. So the World Cup sold out Six Nations. The fact that you've mentioned it there, pubs everywhere across UK, Ireland, Italy, France, wherever you are, would be rammed. So there's a real appetite for that, but there's just so much, it's just so disconnected. You've got the club game, you've got different leagues, you've got different TV channels. So yeah, anyway, that's my life that I've been involved in for the last 9 years. But Kenny, I wanted to give my justification because you kind of asked me the question and I'd be rude and I'd feel as if I now need to justify my Scottishness to you. Can I do that?
You don't have to justify your Scottishness, but go on anyway. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it. Yeah. So I was the 1,000th man, which is amazing to play for Scotland. I've got many tattoos. Some of them are shocking, and there's 2 or 3 that are cool. But the coolest one is actually the cap number, which is just on the wrist.
Look at that.
Yeah,
fantastic. So, I can't say that word. 1,000. I can't say it.
You can't say it. Just can't say it.
Neither of us can.
No, I can't say it. Thousand.
Yeah, 1 after 999. I know, but don't be fooled by the accent. I have a Scottish heartbeat. I've got a Scottish blood, and you won't believe the story if I tell you, but you've asked it, so I'm going to have to tell you. And even if you don't want to hear it, then I'm going to tell you anyway.
Absolutely, go for it.
So my dad was in the military. He was in the Queensland Highlanders. He was in the Special Forces. So he's in the Scottish Regiment, Scotland till he dies, Glaswegian, born and bred. And my mum, I'm laughing because you'll hear now. So my mum's half English and half Chinese, which makes me a quarter Chinese, a quarter Asian. I won't tell you what part of me is Chinese because it's
We've all got across to bear.
part of the stand-up gig. But so my mum and dad divorced after the Iraq War in '91. Had a bit of a tough upbringing. Grew up on a council estate, so not your traditional route to rugby union, private schools, and how it's perceived. So a bit of a rough upbringing. But I was lucky because I lived in the Midlands, and Leicester Tigers, which was one of the most successful clubs in the early 2000s, the late 90s. England won the World Cup in 2003. The heartbeat of that team was from Leicester. Because I was 6'8", 6'9", even though I wanted to play football or be a boxer or join the army like my dad and a lot of my mates, when you're 6'9" and you could throw your fists about a little bit and your boots around a little bit, there was one opportunity, and it wasn't playing football, it was playing rugby. So I got picked up by Leicester, and they took me under their wing and developed me as an athlete loosely, and gave me an opportunity at life. It's as big as saying that. They gave me an opportunity at a new life, growing up on a council estate in Coventry with no father, no parents there, no real role models. Rugby gave me that avenue and that kind of foundation and grounding to show that there was another life and another opportunity available. And then I played at Leicester for a few years, and I was playing well, but there was a lot of good players playing for England. The name Jim Hamilton is as Scottish as William Wallace, and one of the coaches came down and said, look, we know your dad's a Scotsman, was in the military. Would you want to play for Scotland? And I was 22. And again, from where I grew up in the Midlands, not huge opportunities to do much in terms of living and experiences. I said, Scotland, yeah, I lived there as a kid. Mm-hmm. Why not? The Highlands, the mountains. And it's one of them, lads, where I didn't hold the thistle on my chest, and my debut against Romania was the 1,000th cap, and my eyes bleeding with blue blood and, with the emotion. I grew into that role. I grew into the appreciation. I grew into what it meant to be a Scotsman. And I loved every single minute of my 63 caps playing for Scotland. It was the most joyous, the memories, playing in 2 World Cups, playing in 10 Six Nations tournaments, just everything about playing international sport. And you mentioned, Kelly, the international, specifically the Six Nations, the World Cups, to run out there. Yeah, to run out there and face the hacker, run out there and sing an anthem, run out there and your family are in the crowd. You feel like a modern day fucking warrior. There's no other way, there's no other words to describe it. And it's almost a life that never happened, because I'm 42 now. I retired 7 years ago, and it just goes, because when you're an athlete, your career is, if all being well, I retired at 34, it comes and goes. And when you retire, you're still a young man. Like you're a kid when you're playing. I'm playing international rugby at 22. I'm a kid. So it was absolutely amazing. And the fact that even when you ask it and me talking about it there, I get goosebumps, because I think back to the memories and what rugby gave me. Such an amazing sport.
I think as well, like Murrayfield. So I am obviously not native to Scotland. I've been here since 2007. My son plays for the Madraskals, so over in St Andrews. I dabbled with coaching. They asked me if I would. I tried to explain I'm about as fit as a butcher's dog that was put down a week ago. But they're like, no, it's cool. Then they found out I was a nurse. They're like, we can use that as well. So having that sort of camaraderie with the other coaches and seeing the kids doing it. And we are fortunate enough to get early bookings to go to the autumn internationals and things like that. I was at Murrayfield 2 years ago for the Calcutta Cup. I have the English Rose tattooed on my chest from my rugby shirt that I got done in a tattoo artist in Glasgow, which was never a good plan, and it was very deep, and he told me that afterwards. And see, for the first 15 minutes, I'm stood there, I am roaring. My son made me buy a Scotland rugby shirt, but across my shoulders it says my other shirt has a rose on it, which you can get away with when you're in a rugby crowd. They have a good sense of humour. And then England started to lose, and everybody stood up around me. I was like, oh, I'm at the wrong end of the stadium. See, by the end of that match, I was just as happy to see Scotland win. Having lived up here as long as I have, and it's infectious. There's something about it. And a few of my mates are like, well, you're not Scottish. I said, no, I'm not. But I wouldn't say I'm English anymore either. Like, I've been here that long. My wife, my kids, they're all Scottish. And it's something that gets inside of you. And I don't think you physically need to have been born here to appreciate that and get on board with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, just having someone else reiterate that and speak about that is what it is. I go to the US quite a lot, and I was in Colorado this summer, and you tell people, oh, I'm from Scotland or Edinburgh. They're like, oh, do you know Jimmy? Oh, I know Jimmy. Yeah, I know who he is. But it's the history and the soul that Scotland has and the passion. But the history, specifically, the history when it comes to the 1800s and the 1700s, but the castles and the Highlands and the Glens, there's just so much soul to this place. And when you play for Scotland and you play in that stadium specifically, like you feel like a modern day warrior. And the crowd and the energy, and I get getting goosebumps talking about it when you run out and you sing the anthem. And by accident it was that the anthem cut off, and then the crowd just sing that they've stuck with that now, that halfway through the anthem it cuts off, and you just hear 80,000 people and more people in the houses that can hear the stadium singing it. There's like a connection there that, yeah, it's almost unexplainable sometimes. And when my kids asked me what it was like playing, and I said to them, I can't explain. It's the closest to feeling more alive than you've ever felt. When you run out, and I'm getting goosebumps talking about it now, and it's, I'm willing to die for my team. But it did feel like that. It genuinely did when you're a young man. And yeah, it's truly special.
You can feel the energy coming from you whenever you speak about it. So I'll ask you this. You've gone on and you've your back door into the media, as you put it. You start your podcasting, you're after dinner speaking, and who knows what coming up in the future for you. Do you miss the rugby?
Yeah. And I try not to think about it that much. You can probably hear the passion when I speak about it, because I don't speak about it that much, because it is hard and it's a form of life, and I don't like to see myself. And me and my wife were chatting in the car a couple of days ago, just randomly, because people do stop you and they talk to you about the podcast, which is great. And I like the fact that I'm no longer known as Jim Hamilton, the Scotland rugby player, because I'm not that person. That's not who I am. That's who I was. And I miss it. I miss doing that. Like you think about, and sometimes when you're in it, it's like anything, right? It's, you're having a moan or whatever it is. I'm in pain, or, when's my next contract? I'm not getting paid enough. I'm injured. I'm not being looked at. Whatever it is, like just men just moan, don't they? And we used to do that a little bit. But the true essence of being with like-minded men, big men, I'm 6'9", 6'8", 6'9". I'm walking around, not generally with people my height, but 18, 19 stone, testosterone-fueled athletes, right?
Yeah.
People who have the same interests of me. They want to win, high-performing, nutrition, training, sleeping, game, fights, whatever it is, recovery, you're into it, and then it's gone. And then you're not involved in any of that anymore, unless you go into coaching, which I didn't decide to do. So there's been a void been left by that for sure. But yeah, when I speak about it, it was, naturally I loved it and I miss it. I miss the playing aspect. But what happens is in rugby, especially in this sport, you very rarely get to leave lifting a World Cup or leave on your own terms. A lot of us do limp out of the game. And I had broken ribs. I broke my sternum. I was injecting, taking painkillers. So there was I suppose the mood of coming towards retirement and the pain that you were in, and my wife will tell you, right, I'm crawling out of the bed and then I'm taking painkillers to then get up and train and then inject ribs. Not forced. That's me, because you're trying to live for the next contract or whatever. But that's the harsh realities of playing a contact sport. You look at NFL, UFC, whatever it is. If you're in a contact sport rugby league, that is the jeopardy and that is the sacrifice you make. So it doesn't always end well. So I was ready to retire is what I'm saying.
Yeah, you see a lot of so I was a boxer for years and years and years at a very low level, but I obviously followed the professional scene, loved the boxing. I would have followed the boxing like most people would have followed Premier League. I couldn't tell you the offside rule in football, but boxing, I could sit and speak for hours. And a lot of the fellas a lot of the boxers that retire, they come away, they have that void that you're talking about, and you read about what happens next, don't you? Because they've got lost, or they've ended up, substance abuse, and because they've just got this big void that they can't fill. Obviously for you went on and you have what you have now. Do you know what your life would have looked like as Jim with nothing to do after the rugby, or do you not even ever think about that?
Yeah, I don't think about it really. I mean, now I'm in a bit of a transition period because I'm leaving a lot of the rugby stuff behind and the media stuff that I've done, but I've still got my podcast. And there's a number of reasons for that. So I'm looking for what's next. I'm 42. Again, I don't want to be that Jim Hamilton who's just regurgitating the same thing. There's an evolution that I want in my life and my career, but I know I don't think about that, but a lot of lads do. Most lads I speak to have struggled. Like, you imagine going from that environment then into what a lot of them do is go into like a business development role or accountancy and finance, and you're in a silent office.
Yeah,
it's just naturally, chemically, consciously, every emotion that you would have is the complete opposite to what you've been accustomed to. So I know a lot of players struggle, and it's the same with boxing. You see them coming out of retirement at 50 or whatever it is.
It's a joke at the moment.
Yeah, the misfit stuff that you're looking at as well, and Ricky Hatton's coming back, and does Carl Froch come back? You could see a Tyson Fury coming back at 50. You couldn't you? You can see
absolutely. I'd love to see Carl Froch come back and have a go at
Darren Till.
Your man Jake Paul.
Oh, Jake Paul, yeah.
Because I think Carl Froch is the type of guy who would say, no to that term, this term, nope, we will fight.
Of course, he's a proper fighting man. Yeah, he's class.
And I think Jake Paul would have a bit of a tough night that night. I mean, the only credible boxer he fought that I think was ripped up the paperwork was Tommy Fury, and
credible.
Yeah, credible as it could be.
I know.
Young sort of fighting age guy. Obviously, whatever contract, he just didn't want to know it. I mean, did you see the Mike Tyson fight?
I couldn't believe it. I was gutted, Kenny. I'm a Mike Tyson fan to the core of me, and watching him walk out like he did and nearly fall over, I just couldn't believe it. And you know what? I actually had respect for Jake Paul by the end of it, because I think he could have probably hurt him, and he didn't.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not taking away from. I think Jake Paul is a capable enough kid as a fighter. He isn't what he thinks he is. He's certainly not what he says he is. And he's obviously, listen, don't hate the player, hate the game. He's making a lot of money.
Yeah, and that's the thing with boxing, right? It's dirty. There's a dirty undercurrent. This Turkey guy is clearly trying to sort that out and align and get the best fighters and get them paid accordingly. But yeah, I think naturally in anything that's making that much money, there's always going to be other stuff. And also the new world that we're in, right? Social media, influence from that. And it's tragic. Like it is on so many, not just in rugby or boxing or whatever you're thinking about. The fact that the influence, I watched the Misfits at the weekend. That's why I mentioned Darren Till when he knocked out Luke Rockhold, the UFC guy as well. But that's how you're consuming it, right? It's who speaks the loudest. It's the most clickbait that you can get. And that is what is engaging our youngsters, as opposed to this long-form conversation, podcast, real lived stories. And that's where, going back to it, not that it's all about me, but that's where my passion lies, is staying on that line of authenticity and passion, I suppose,
Yeah, but I mean, me and Ben were talking about it, and you mentioned it there about not wanting to be, Jim, the former Scottish player. You wanted to be like evolve and revolve, and evolve is the right word, isn't it? Anyone that would say happen across your podcast, the Big Jim Show, that is, unless they were to sit and listen to it and maybe know a little bit about you, there is no rugby connection there. Yes, you have guests, but it is very much an absolute transition away from international rugby. Yeah, I mean, my dad-in-law, whenever I said that, I said, I think I'm going to be getting Jim Hamilton onto the podcast. He goes, No way. And, because the rugby in his house is an absolute institution.
Oh, that's cool.
Particularly during the Six Nations. I live over in Northern Ireland. I'm the only guy that wears the white shirt. I never realised how much of Ireland had a connection to France, Wales, anyone but the English, And it's,
same in Scotland.
Yeah, and so, I mean, you were talking earlier on about sort of heritage, and so I'm Kenny Campbell. My family are Scottish. We're Campbell of Argyll, but I've never felt a Scotsman. I've never felt like a Scotsman. So my family are military. All my family, all the males from going way back, are all airborne. They're all paratroopers, and we lived in Aldershot initially, but then we moved to Catterick, and we lived all over. Did you?
How old are you, Kenny?
Me, I am 46 and 11 months and 3 weeks.
Oh, I was just trying to think if we would have passed. I'm 42. Lived there when I was 5, 6 maybe.
So,
I can't do the maths of that.
Do you know what we could have done? I think I was there around 9-ish. So have you been to Catterick recently?
I haven't, no.
It is humongous. It is now the official home of the British Army. And when you lived there, so you would have lived there, I would have been about 8 or 9. So yeah, do you know what? We could possibly have crossed paths. In fact, do you remember the white shops?
No,
the little shops that were near the hospital, they called them the white shops. I actually had my tonsils taken out in the military hospital there. And I was just happened to be passing through, and I thought I'll nip into Catterick because it'll take me 5 minutes. Big sprawling, great big sprawling.
It's huge.
Massive.
And you might get run over by a tank. Yeah. So I lived just below Catterick Garrison, spent a bit of time doing things up and down in and around Catterick. For my dad, it was a nightmare. So my dad was director of operations for TENYAS at the time, which was Tees East and North Yorkshire Ambulance Service. And he had this fear that everyone was going to come back at once. Because if actually everybody came back to Catterick Garrison, you doubled the population of North Yorkshire like that overnight. It is gigantic what they've done with it.
Yeah, there's some real parallels with sport, military, and riding as well. I say military and riding. So I had Aldo Kane on the podcast, former Royal Marine sniper, and he rides as well. And we actually didn't get into it on the show. I was working with a different producer. I've only had one producer. He only lasted 4 or 5 weeks. We just didn't connect. But he kind of drove the narrative for the Aldo Kane episode. And I wanted to get into bikes and all of these different things, but we didn't get into bikes. But he rides, and we were talking off camera about how military people, it's about purpose and it's about being in the moment and mental clarity, and maybe there's the sense of danger. What I don't know. Maybe that you're drawn to, but there are so many crossovers, aren't there, with the sport, military, and riding bikes. It's the mental health aspect with it, the community. And I kind of spoke about it. I've got a podcast coming out. It'll be before this because it comes out tomorrow on Wednesday. So it would have already been out. But with my mate who I rode up with, and we were speaking about connection when we were riding up there and how we both needed it. We've been busy with the family. He's had a few things going on at home. But the bike, and we weren't mic'd up or whatever, but being on the bike and being in control of something like that and being at one with the road and the outdoors going up into the Highlands, it was so good for the mental clarity. And we were talking about how we needed to do it more. But yeah, it was cool.
It's always the same when you get onto a bike. You always say every time, need to do this more. I need to do this more. I was listening to, I forget the name of the guy now, but similar vein to what you were saying there. He said, the thing about riding a motorcycle is you can do all these roads in a car. You could do the same road every single day in a car. You could ride that very same road on a motorcycle. And it's at that point you realize that the air smells different every 10 feet. The temperature goes up or down by a degree or two every 10 or 20 feet. The focus is, the heightened focus. And I think as well, if you're talking about mental health, what certainly for us, we ride in big packs, we ride, in great big groups. You're surrounded by people, but you're perfectly alone in your helmet. but you stop every 100 miles or so, and you're with your buddies. And so if you're all trying to work through something, there's a real lovely balance about riding with people, because you get to do it all in here, and then you get to stop and you get to chat.
Yeah, it's a great way of putting it. And that's what me and my mate Roddy were talking about. So we stopped at the House of Brewer, and we were pissing ourselves laughing on the way up. And then we had a deep conversation when we got there. His dad's ashes were buried not far away from there. He lost his dad recently. I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know what he was going through. So we got into a deep conversation. And then it's like that. So you have that conversation, you have that human connection, get whatever off your chest. And then you're alone, like you said, in your helmet, with the road, with the elements. And you can either think about what you've just spoken about, or you think about nothing. And I very rarely have that. I had it as a player. I had it as an athlete, because you had to be in the zone. You had to be locked in, as we called it. And yes, it's really, I know it's a thing. You'll know better than me. You guys ride a lot more than me. You know it's a thing. You will speak to your buddies. But yeah, definitely need to do it more.
It's the key to the door, is the way I always think about it. So for me, it's Harley or motorcycles, anything really. Riding is an absolute leveler. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. It doesn't matter where you've come from. At that point, at that moment, you are you and a machine. And you never pull up at a petrol station and talk to another man that's got a Volvo. Just doesn't happen. So as soon as you're on a motorbike, and I think it happens more with us because we're on Harleys, you're on a Harley, and there's that bit of a link. But motorcyclists in general, if you're at a petrol station, you don't ignore the other dude that's doing the same thing you are. And it gives you that opportunity to have a conversation you wouldn't necessarily have otherwise. And I am a firm believer in what you've said there, that big conversation. And I think you can have that big conversation because you've got the safety of your bike afterwards. You know you're going to have that conversation, but you've got the cut off. I need to get back for the kids, or we need to carry on with our ride, or we need to do 1,000,001 things. And then you've got that time in your lid. So I've recently been diagnosed with autism and ADHD. It answers a lot of questions. It's posed a lot more questions for me. But my bike has always felt like the place I want to be. So I joke about having squirrels, having a pagan rave, and we talk about my tisms and all of this sort of stuff. But you bang on the money. You can't not focus on what you're doing. Any other thought that you've got going on, you can put that to the back of your head. It is a dangerous pastime. So you do need to get your eyes on the road, focus on what you're doing. And for me, I mean, I'm now medicated, and that's made a huge difference. I'm not advocating medication for everyone. For me, it works. I had a day without my meds and went on my bike and realized what I was doing with my bike before, because I rode like a lunatic. And until I got up to a certain speed and I was at the point of this is not the best place to be, oof, the clarity came in. I was like, right, this is why I used to do what I was doing. Now I can enjoy it on a different level. But it is that escape. And it gives me that space that you don't have anywhere else, with the opportunity for conversation if you want it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great way of putting it. And there's so many of them stories out there, isn't there? And again, I don't have many of them because I haven't been out enough to be able to connect with different people. And I think there's again, so I speak about on the podcast or whatever, and chatting to Roddy, the one that's would have been out already, is there's this perception, right? You're working in the media, you're hustling, you're bustling, you're around like loads of men, and it's not like that. It isn't. It's quite a lonely existence to go from the career that I was in to then on the road and traveling and go up and do a stand-up gig or go and do a podcast. You're then on your own. So you're then on a plane and you're coming back and you're tired and you're all of these things. So yeah, just to kind of reiterate the point that I made, it's something that I will do more of. I've got a real appetite to travel and do that. I mean, these next 2 years will be about giving back to my family. I've got 4 children. I've got a wife who's been grafting for the whole time I've been a professional rugby player. And even now, trying to rebuild this second career or climb this second mountain, as Aldo Kane called it. But I think for me, as I think about getting to 50, when the opportunities start arising where I could go to America, I've had a couple of mates who've ridden around the world and got some great stories. One's quite a sad story, actually. But I'm keen to go and do that and follow in the footsteps of people that have managed to find something that they're passionate about. Because all my mates play golf. I fucking hate golf. Fucking hate golf. Do you know what I mean? I get invited to all these places to go. It's like, I fucking hate golf. Like, I don't know what more you want me to say. So I'm trying to find what my thing is. And this is my thing, but it can't really be my thing because of the time that it takes to go out and the weather that we have in Scotland or whatever, which some people, I mean, it looks amazing. If you're driving through the Highlands and it's pissing it down and snowing and you're there on your old chopper, it's going to look great.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So for you, Jim, what is your dream when it comes to motorcycles? And what I mean by that is, so for me, I have two sort of dreams. I have one, me on my own, conquering roads that everyone's been on before. And then I have another dream, which is to have, 4 or 5 individuals that are very, really close to me, and we go off on an adventure together. All right. What's your dream with bikes? What would be this is what I want?
The thing that I think about a lot is I'd love to build a bike. I'd love to build a bike that is deep in history. So World War parts. Everything that has a story or a craft or has been somewhere that isn't new, that has been repolished or has been brought back to life. And I'm not a mechanic. I'm not a musician. I'm not a mechanic. I can barely speak another language. But if I had an opportunity, and I might have, this could be the hobby, to be able to build a bike, to understand every single bolt and every single screw and slowly put it together. So when I get to the age of 50, I then can relive that other dream and take it on the road and maybe head east and go around Europe and forget about America, this American dream that everyone keeps talking about, and actually do it in Europe and do it with some mates that I'm connected with, maybe people that have helped me build the bike, but maybe friends that want to join on that journey with me. But yeah, I haven't thought massively about it. These are just, you've obviously asked the question on the spot, but they're things that I'm interested in. So when I watch stuff on YouTube, I look at that stuff. I look at people building bikes. I look at people traveling around the world on bikes and the stories that you could tell. I mean, I would love to build a podcast and a channel around doing that. I'd love to I'd love to use the skill set that I do have. I mentioned that I can't build bikes, but I'd love to use the skill set of building a YouTube page and documenting that as part of the journey. I know that that's, again, it's not a revolutionary thing. People have done that again, but you don't see much in the UK. You don't see many people in Scotland doing that. A lot of it is America. They're so far ahead, aren't they? And they're
absolutely
the arrogance and also the confidence that they have to document that and put themselves out there and do that. I'm really keen to potentially do that and be like, right, okay, I'm going to get a bike, I'm going to do it up, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take it out and do a documentary on it and showcase just what it's like being on the road and the connection that you have with the road and the connection that you have with different people from all walks of life.
Yeah. Do you ever watch any of the Henry Cole stuff?
No. Not even heard of him.
Right, it'll be right up your street. He's royalty when it comes to motorcycles. He has a thing called the Motorbike Show. He's actually launching an online sort of version of it, not this Saturday coming, the following, not this Sunday coming, the following Sunday. He does a lot of rebuilds. He does, he digs around in sheds, and I think it would be right up your street. So definitely have a look at him. Henry Cole, the Motorbike Show.
Yeah, absolutely. And like interviewing people like this as well. I mean, I'm branching slowly into, I don't want to say niche, but maybe less high profile people who are doing things that of craft or doing things that are really cool and doing inspirational things. So maybe he'd be someone, I mean, he might say no, but interviewing people like this and bringing them to my audience as well and showing my interest with people that are experts in the field, I suppose.
Yeah. I don't know if do you listen to books? Do you listen to audio? Sorry, Ben. Do you listen to audio books, do you?
Loosely. Hit me.
Loosely, yeah. I have to listen to them because I don't read right well. But if you listen to his autobiography, that's a blinding listen.
That's it.
Absolute blinding listen.
It's on the next one. Yeah, I've actually got a book to read. There's a lady called Elspeth who cycled the world. So I've got her on the show.
No way.
Yeah.
Elspeth Beard.
That's it, Elspeth Beard. So I've got her on the show in 2 weeks. So she's broke her leg. She's in Italy at the minute. So she's just coming back from a broken leg. And then she's doing a bike shed talk on the same day as I do the podcast with her. So, yeah. So you see where I'm going with it.
Yeah. She will be a fantastic guest.
Yeah, so she's my next book, by the way. Sorry, that's what I mean. So she's got a book that I need to read or listen to. So that's the next one.
It is. You'll eat it up in a day and a half. It is absolutely brilliant. She did the long way round before the long way round was the long way round.
Yeah.
in terms of your dream to do an older bike, though, I think that is a really good way of doing it. There are parts on modern bikes. So I look at my bike, I will take my saddle off, I'll do a couple of things, and then I put it all back together because I'm scared of it because the electronics. I can put people back together. I can't touch anything mechanical, but I think the older bike element is the way to go. I've wanted to do it for a very long time. So if you do it and you get a podcast, you've got a guaranteed audience of one. I'm sure you'll have many, many more, but I'll be the first to sign up. I would love to do something like that. And you've hit that bit in us. I'm sure Kenny was sat there smirking. I got a little buzz. Hearing you talk about that idea of getting a bike, and Henry Cole would be an absolute blinder of a person if you can speak to him about it. He just looks at a pile of rust and he can see the finished product. And it's that vision that I think a lot of us don't have. And you saying about finding parts and repolishing them, repurposing them, it's bringing all those stories together. So we mentioned the other day the WL bikes, which are a lot of the bikes coming back over from the States, or coming back into the States, from the theatres of war. They were disassembled completely. So you had no guarantee that the bike you got was the bike you were riding out there. Even if the frame was right and the engine was right, there'd be other bits. And having that all come together. I'm not a hugely religious person. I think there's something bigger than me out there for definite, but I think you find spirit in things. James Dean's car is a prime example. I'm fairly certain, was it not called The Little Bastard? He bought a Porsche, waiting for a Lotus, bought a Porsche. Unfortunately, it killed him, and then it killed the following respective owners, and even parts taken off it to the point that they disassembled it and you couldn't buy any bits of it anymore. I think hopefully that isn't something that follows other vehicles, but there's definitely
I've got a fucking way to go, Ben. Mood hoover.
There's a spirit.
There's a story. There's a story amongst some of these things, and I think in this modern day of shiny things, and I like shiny things as well. But me and the wife are trying to do things with the kids. Like we went to Austin, Texas, to have a look at some of the stuff that is going on over there when it comes to podcasting and comedy. And you want to see some of the old cars and the old bikes knocking about, and how they really value them kind of old school crafts and workmanships. And even the dogs there are cool as fuck. Like we're there like that. How cool is that dog? Why do we not have dogs like that in the UK? So just taking inspiration from that, I am into things like that. I'm also interested in people that like tattoo artists or whatever it is, like people who have a skill set that can be imprinted on literally on someone's life forever. It's crazy.
See, in terms of old vehicles, you've probably already looked at it, but if you haven't, have a look at the car scene in Cuba. So obviously when they could move things in and out of America, they bought a load of old American cars into Cuba. Then the embargoes hit and you had everything that went on. You've got incredible like Americana classic vehicles being powered by Kia diesel engines, boat engines, just anything they could ram in there to keep it going because they just love the shape of the vehicle and the spirit of it. In terms of like that Frankenstein engineering, it tickles me pink every time I look at it.
Yeah.
Because the cars look phenomenal, and then you lift up the bonnet and you've got some Soviet era Kia engine in there just chugging away. But they love it, and it's their way of keeping it alive, isn't it?
I'm into cars, so I had a Defender 90 that I did up during COVID. But again, being 6'9", I had to have the seat moved back and where the bulkhead moved.
Right out the window.
Well, I had the steering wheel, which was the size of this microphone. It was shocking. But I went back there because I bought a car when I was in Japan and had it imported back, an old Toyota Land Cruiser, which I'm selling, by the way, because you can't drive it in Edinburgh because it's ULEZ or whatever it is, or not exempt. But anyway, I took that for an MOT last week, and the guys at the Defender place had just renovated a Defender 90 with an electric engine. So someone had paid £130,000 to put basically a Tesla engine in this Defender 90. I wasn't sure. I mean, there was a part I was like, it's meant to roar, it's meant to grumble, it's meant to stall. But then there was a part of me where it's like, well, is it quick? And they said it's rapid. Yeah. So just what you can do now, the engineering and stuff like that. And I do like a little bit of the old and the new, but that was, I think they had fuck you money. So I think they could do whatever, whatever they wanted.
That's like you, Ben. You've got fuck you money as well, haven't you?
I wish I did. See, people have this theory about me. I really don't. I'm just financially irresponsible is the truth of it. So I've got the fancy bits, but but I'm getting grief at the moment. So I'm waiting on my new car. And just due to different tax things and things like that. I had bought a big Ford pickup, always wanted one, and then my accountant spoke to me, and the benefit in kind tax was horrendous.
Yeah.
You could have bought a really nice family car for the tax I'd have been paying every year. So I am waiting on delivery of a Mustang Mach-E, which everyone's like, it's not a Mustang, it's fully electric. It is. But the way you said, is it fast? 480 brake horsepower, 700 foot-pounds of torque in all-wheel drive, 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds, and it looks like a Hot Wheels car because it's the rally spec. So big wing. I'm reliving my sort of boy racer crisis as I approach my 40s. But it's that, it doesn't roar, but it serves a purpose.
Yeah, if it doesn't roar, it's not a Mustang. My dream car would have been a Mustang, but when I was playing, I bought one of these new 5-litre V8 ones, which again, for the price, I think it was 30 grand. You've never seen speed like it. 5-litre. It was a 5-litre, sorry. Did I say a 5 litre or did I say 4.8? It was a 5 litre, definitely.
No, you said 5.
Yeah, 5 litre, and I sold it, and I missed it that much that I bought another one. I've lost it. That's been the nemesis. That's been the financial. What do they call it? Negligence, I would say, when it comes to cars. So that's
you've just reminded me of something I wanted to ask you before. So, presumably, when you were playing professionally, you had certain things that you could and couldn't do. Presumably, driving any car would have been absolutely no issue. But motorcycles, would you have been allowed to ride a motorcycle, or was there certain restrictions on that, or could you live a normal life in that respect, as far as other dangers were concerned, or were you under a kibosh?
You couldn't ski. That was one thing. So skiing, people talk about hobbies and stuff like that. I've heard of more people breaking legs and necks and backs and horrible injuries skiing. So I know we couldn't ski because there was a lot of injuries that would come from that. I don't recall bikes. I think there was something. When I was in France, they were cowboys there. They were archaic, like 50 years behind the curve when it came to professional sport. The coaches, people were smoking on the bus, so I don't think they're worried about people riding bikes.
Brilliant.
But my gut feeling says that if you maybe it was just more risky because you were always injured anyway. So the last thing you'd want to do is get on a bike and even think about risking injury. But there's a few lads that do ride. There's a few like international lads. A guy called George North who played for Wales in the British Irish Lions. He's a big Triumph fan. He rides them bikes. And there's a couple of mates of mine that do ride, but I think it's more coffee shop, decent weather, not that fast, just out of body preservation, just in case.
Talking of Triumphs, because they're absolute belt. I love a Triumph. I must admit, if I didn't ride and love Harley Davidson, Triumph would be the next one. Have you seen their big rocket?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an idea, actually.
Yeah, have you sat on one of those?
I haven't, no. I've got a few mates at Triumph. Like, as I say, so one of these things that I'm looking at now is the next opportunity. What that is, do I try and collaborate with, Harley would be the dream, but do I try and collaborate with a Triumph? I've got some mates there and generate some content, do some stuff around some bikes as a novice, so learning. Do you know what I mean? So I've got a few mates at Triumph, and I've been offered a couple of opportunities to do some stuff with them, so I might look at that.
Right, so just a big thanks to Jim. Thanks for sharing all those insights. Some good anecdotes in there as well. One quick question I do want to know. Were you playing when Thunderstruck became the thing at Murrayfield? Because that's one thing I really enjoy as well, that AC/DC, as you guys are coming out.
I'm going to just say yes, just for this show. Yes, 100%.
Excellent. So thank you very much for joining us this evening. It's been really good fun. Looking forward to seeing where you're going in terms of biking and what you do. When you find a bike, if you need any help, me and Kenny, expert shoppers, we'll do it for you. Not allowed to buy any more bikes ourselves. Thank you to you, Kenny. How was it?
Thank you very much
for your own show.
Yes, thanks very much for having me, Ben. It was fantastic.
And will you come back if I invite you?
Please do. Yes, I'm available for the next one. Absolutely, yeah.
I'll try and see what I can do. So, folks, thanks very much for listening. Hopefully you've enjoyed the episode, and we will catch up with you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, lads.